Hello, and welcome to another episode of Boundless Body Radio. I'm your host, Casey Ruff, and today we have another amazing guest to introduce to you now. Suzanne Alexander is a multi-award-winning educator with over 30 years of experience in the classroom. She is a highly accomplished health and nutrition researcher with over 40 years of research to her credit. Suzanne is the co-author and editor of the newly released book, The Ancestral Diet Revolution, along with renowned physician, author, nutrition researcher, and speaker, Dr. Chris Kenobi, who we have hosted on our show twice, first on episode 73 and more recently on episode 459 to discuss their amazing book. Suze is also the executive director of public relations and philanthropy at the Ancestral Health Foundation and the Cure MD Foundation, both nonprofit organizations where neither she nor Dr. Kenobi accept any compensation for their work. Wow. Suzanne's ultimate purpose is to share her findings and to save as many people as possible from the suffering she's witnessed individually, within her family, with her clients, and also observed nationally, internationally, and globally. Suzanne, a single parent, is a proud mother of two beautiful daughters, Alexandra and Roxana, and grandmother to precious Claire. Suze Alexandra, what an absolute honor it is to welcome you to Boundless Body Radio.
Casey, thank you. Oh, I'm just so thrilled to be here. And I can't thank you enough for all that you do for us. You're such a great supporter for our mission, and you're just a blessing. Thank you.
I can't thank you both enough for the work that you guys do. Meeting Chris in person and the weekend that the world blew up in 2020 at Low Carb Denver was absolutely amazing. And learning from him that he was not a very good public speaker was such a shock to me, because he is now an amazing public speaker, and he feels so strongly about this message that he, by his own claim, went from the worst public speaker ever to what I would consider one of the best. He is absolutely amazing at presenting this information. It meant so much to him to share this message that he had to learn how to public speak. It's incredible.
Yes, I mean, he's brilliant, and I'm in awe of him, because I mean, I'm a performer. I was an opera singer, and the way he just lights up on the stage, and he's just everything. He's just incredible. He's amazing.
He is incredible. Yeah, I just got to see him also at the Metabolic Health Symposium in San Diego.
Totally.
And he made another amazing presentation. And you know, you are also the co-author of the book, The Ancestral Diet Revolution, which is amazing. It's a beautiful book. And I mean that in all senses. Like, all the content is amazing. The book itself, exactly. I know. I've got it right here. Yeah, the hardcover is incredible. You are total proof that talents are not evenly distributed amongst all of us. You were in beauty pageants, you've been in opera singing, you're writing books, you're researching things. Like, you have so much going on, more than the rest of us, I would say.
Thank you. My father always said to me that, you set your goals high, and he says, if you can make halfway, he says, then you've been a success. And so as a little girl, at 3 years old, my parents were very musically inclined, and my father was getting his doctorate at Columbia University, and we would always go to see operas and ballet and Broadway, and opera. Every cell of my body was just, oh my golly, it was just so spectacular. And that's all I heard in my head was opera. So it was very hard for me to learn. It's part of the ADHD that I have, but it was just like I just could only hear music. I didn't want to hear the teacher. I could only hear music. And anyway, so that was kind of got me going. And then of course my father was a huge piece of my life, of course, but and he was the one that got me into the pageants, because I was a tomboy. You could just find me climbing trees and hanging from trees, and doing most of what boys do. And he came to me when I was 17, and he says, you have two options. And I said, what? And he goes, you're either going to get a job this summer, or you're going to enter a pageant, because he was in the Lions Club. And he says, and we want to sponsor you. And I hear I'd never worn a stitch of makeup. My hair was, down to my thighs. I was really, wore hiking boots, flannel shirts, bib, farmer pants. And I said, what? And he goes, no, we know your voice, you'll win. I said, but I don't want to be in a pageant. That's just not me. But anyway, and so one thing led to another. And I thought, wow. I said, you really mean I don't have to get a job? And he said, no. I said, but what if I don't win? And he said, I said, does it mean I still don't have to get a job? I can just hang out? And he goes, right. And I was like, I know I'm not going to win, so I'll do it. But I ended up winning, and then I kept going on and went to the Miss America pageant and things like that.
That's amazing. So you were Miss New York, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was Miss New York State, and then I won talent in the top 10 of Miss America, and it was
What
exciting.
was that
Totally
like? Yeah.
It was really that was for me, it was so different because I didn't belong. I just didn't belong there. And it was I of course I was winning all the awards for because I was so down to earth. I was so different, and all the people, the PR guys, all the newspaper guys were writing, and they were just saying, you're so different. You're such a breath of fresh air. You're not the typical person. And I said, well, I kind of think myself as being like an undercover reporter. I'm just here. And then all of a sudden that Miss Congeniality movie comes out. I'm thinking, that was kind of like me, And but I was really just backstage, just learning and watching, and just astounded by how some of them, this was their life. I mean, they just lived and breathed it. And I remember I think it was Miss Illinois. She was an opera singer, and she was getting her doctorate. And she asked me if I could coach her. And I'm like, you're getting your doctorate. I'm still working on my bachelor's, in opera. And so I was working backstage, and then the media got a hold of it, and they're like, you're helping another contestant. And I said, well, absolutely. I said, we're all here to help people, And they said, but don't you want to not help her to be better? Oh, no. I said, I'm not here to win. I'm just here to just follow God's path, So it was really interesting. But I learned. It's always learning experience. And then after that, then I got into modeling, and Beverly Sills heard me sing. She was my idol. She was one of the most, the divas of the day. And she was the head of the New York City Opera Company. And so she took me under her wing, and that's how I got in there. And then I was in Montreal Opera Company. I was all over, and it was really exciting to live that kind of life. But then, Casey, we would go into schools, and we would perform operas and teach them in operas. And we were the touring company. And I was just in awe of the children, the energy that you get from the children. And I went home, and I called my parents, and I said, I don't think I belong in performance and all this money and all this glamour and all this. It wasn't me.
Wow.
It just wasn't me. And they're like, what? You're going to give it all up? And I said, I think I'm going to go back to school and become a teacher. And so that's what I did. So for over 30 years, I taught in classrooms. And
wow.
But in the meantime, Case, as a little girl, I know this is I'll try to talk as faster than I normally do. My father was he was, the district principal of all of our schools. And, but he also on the side was a wildlife rehabilitation person, so a specialist. And so whenever wild animals in the area, mostly the babies, if a mother had gotten killed by cars and so forth, people would bring the babies to us, the little babies, and we would raise them. And so from a little tiny girl, and I had struggled with horrible, horrible health issues, as did my dad. I inherited most of them. And in watching them as a 5-year-old little girl, he would say to me, bring home from the library whatever animal we had, whether it's a raccoon or a fox or a skunk or a deer, whatever they were, bring home a book about their habitat and their species-specific diet. And I would sit on his lap, and he would read to me until I could finally learn to read. And we would talk about their food and everything. And we would make sure, because we eventually, when they were old enough, we'd have to put them back into the wild.
Yeah.
And we had to teach them. And so I was in awe, because here I'm so sick. My father's so sick, but these animals were thriving, and their food was different than ours. Their food was all from the earth. It was all, I would go down to the stream with the raccoons, and they would aggressively grab a frog or a crayfish or whatever, and they would just, devour them. And I would just watch them, or they would find berries. They would whatever they would find. And I thought, their lifestyle, is so different. The way they live is so different. And I wanted to be like them. And I kind of became like a little wild animal. And they were my best friends. And I learned their language, and they learned mine. And they taught me how to climb trees. And I was with them constantly. And through there, I said to my father, I found my first hypothesis around 10. And I said, Dad, do you think that that our food, do you think that that's causing us to be ill? And he's like, well, what do you mean? And I said, we're so sick all the time. I said, every time I eat, I'm on the floor in pain. I said, you're sick all the time. You've got migraines. I said, you're at the doctor's all the time. We're both at the doctor's all the time because they're severely constipated or we have this awful pain. And he had a hiatal hernia, and I didn't know at that time. I also did too, that early at my age. And I didn't know I was also celiac, and most likely he was as well. But it was just constant. We were just in such pain. And he said, I never thought about that, Suze. And so I started really investigating this, thinking, well, if it's our food, then why are we eating this like Captain Crunch for breakfast? Why are we having Tang? I don't know if you even know what Tang is. Back in my day,
I remember Tang.
A little jar powder, and you put it into water, and that was your juice. Everything was just so processed, and that I realized I've got to do something about this. And so finally, when I was around 20, around the pageant days, I started taking things out of my diet, and that's where I started realizing every time I was taking something out, it was dairy was the first thing, and then meat. Of course, I became a vegan.
Yeah.
And then I became a raw vegan, which got even worse. So for the first 25 years of being a vegan, I felt great. I mean, I really did. I had my moments where my energy was kind of down, but I had to eat constantly, Casey, constantly. And I was getting over 3,000 calories a day, a lot of it bananas. I would do like 21 bananas a day just to get calories.
Oh my goodness.
Because bananas of the fruit world are probably the highest of the fruit in terms of calories. And but the key is, if you're doing vegan, and anyone's watching as a vegan, you want to make sure it has to be low fat. Cycle, because if you're competition between energies, you're going to have problems. But I'm telling you, my blood glucose, my insulin, everything was perfect. My readings were perfect. And I was always being tested, and then eventually I started getting my doctorate in health and nutrition. And, but by the time I would turn 50, that's when I turned to raw vegan. And that's when things really started going not too well. And so my lab work, when I turned 57, looked like I was dying. I had no white blood cells, red cells, platelets were. So I had to go see her hematologist, oncologist. And she said, they did every test on me, no demand. And she said, my colleagues and I, we've never seen like this before. And she said, we think you have a rare bone marrow cancer. She said, because your white blood cells are formed in the bone marrow. Interestingly, though, I didn't believe it. And she said, but she said we could go in and do the testing for it. She said it was extremely painful. And she said, would you be treated if it is this cancer? I said, no. I said, I would treat myself holistically. And she said, so then why go through the test? She goes, well, let's just say that you've got cancer. And I said, well, you can say that, but I don't. So I just knew it wasn't that. But here I'm 5'8", and at that point I weighed 95 pounds.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
And yeah, I was eating constantly, but it was coming out. As soon as you eat, it would come out the back end. At least I wasn't constipated anymore, but now I had this. But anyway, so so we found out later on. So I started working with the wonderful Sally Norton.
She is an angel. Sally Norton is an angel.
She is. And she said, Suze, we got to get you off all the plants. She said, they're killing you. And of course, here I'm thinking, plants killing me. So she educated me all about oxalates, phytates, lectins, solanine, everything, you name it. And it took her 8 months to slowly get me out. We had to slowly, gradually take me out. Oh, I was getting styes in my eyes with the oxalates coming out, spurs coming out of my bone. I mean, it was horrendous. And but she guided me through it. And then I worked with Paul Saladino, and he got me to become the full carnivore. And I did that for a year. But that didn't do well. I did not do well on full carnivore. And I tried all the supplements. I tried everything. And because I have such severe digestive problems, Case, I think that what I've found in my research, and I've been researching since I was 5, and I feel that we are also individuals. Like when I look at the skunks, and I look at the raccoons, and I look at my deer, and I look at the fox and all the animals we had, they're all mammals, but they all eat different things and they can tolerate different things. And I think humans are the same way. I think that we have to listen to ourselves, and I think we can learn from all of us who are teaching and writing about things. But I think most importantly, you have to listen to yourself. You have to listen to your body, because our body is giving us signals all the time. And for me, no matter how many electrolytes, no matter how many supplements, and I'm not a supplement girl. I don't believe in supplements because, again, I'm so from nature. I'm a nature girl.
Yeah.
My animals weren't taking supplements, and they were really swell. They were really swell. And so I don't take those. And so I thought, why am I getting these horrible foot and leg cramps? No matter what I'm trying, nothing's working. Nothing is working. And so I decided. And so I was working with Paul at the time, and he says, well, what do you think you're going to do? And I said, I'm going to add in some fruit. He goes, and I said, because they're the least toxic. And he said, well, which ones are you going to do? Now, remember, he's carnivore at this time. And I said, I think the best ones for me would be the avocado, because I said, they've got the fat that I need. Even though I was eating like 200 grams of raw suet a day.
Wow.
And I was eating like 2 pounds of meat a day. I was eating 3 ounces of raw kidney, 3 ounces of raw liver. I was eating 6 raw egg yolks. I was eating so much food to try to gain. But I did. Now I'm up to 110. So that's huge for me. And but anyway, so and I said I'm going to start with avocado and a banana, and that was life-changing for me to put those back into my diet. So that's, I don't like sweet. I've never been able to handle anything sweet. So the bananas I eat are just have a little bit of, they're just turning ripe, because I just can't take sweet. I don't like sweet. But maybe it's ancestrally correct.
Yeah, sure.
But so that said, so now so that's where I am now today. So at 62, that's basically my diet. I don't eat a lot of the fat anymore. I just eat my favorite meats would be raw wild bison and yak. So
Yak?
yes, Ashley Armstrong and Sarah Armstrong, they have their new company is called Nourish, and she introduced me to yak, and it's ancestrally raised, and oh my golly, it is so good. So I live a ton on ground yak, and their lamb is wonderful. So I kind of mix a little bit of lamb in there, because lamb has much more fat. Yak is extremely lean, very much like the bison. And so anyway, and I do 2 raw egg yolks a day. So I feel so amazingly optimum at 62. I can do splits now. I've never been able to do splits. And at 62, I'm doing splits. I run faster. I sprint faster than I ever have. I lift more than I've ever have. So again, there's ancestral eating is the only way to go.
That is absolutely incredible. I love that you talk fast too. The biggest complaint I get as being the host of the show is that I talk too fast, and I don't care at all. I'm trying to get the most information out in the least amount of time, and I talk quick.
I'm the same way.
And so do you. At 62, you look like you're 40. I'm about to turn 40 this year. Like, you look amazing. I can tell you're very vibrant and have tons of energy. Now, when I'm talking to people about a carnivore diet, I normally like the definition that is kind of the definition of nature, which is like a carnivorous animal eats about 75% of its calories from animal products. That doesn't mean that you're strictly, exclusively only animal products all the time with no exceptions. By that definition, do you feel like you're still kind of carnivore?
Absolutely, I do. Because I mean, meat, that's my go-to. I love I have 2 freezers. I have 2 refrigerators. And I have so much. That's all. I really cannot imagine not having meat anymore. And I remember the first case after decades of never having any animal product in my life. And it was wild venison. It was venison. It was deer. And I was shaking, and I was just, oh my gosh, am I going to throw up? And to put that first piece of meat in my mouth, I started sobbing, because it was like every cell in my body was just like, oh. oh my golly, I became, my children were watching, my daughters and my granddaughter. And it was just remarkable case to just feel so alive. It had been so long. And there's nothing barbaric about it. There's nothing, because I know vegans, how can you do that? You're killing an animal. But when we think about case, what happens in a field, when you think about the tractors coming through and all of the rabbits and the raccoons and all the little rodents and the chipmunks, they're being brutally chewed up in those machines more than we can imagine. That's brutality. And I know that the animals that I'm consuming, they have given their lives. It's cyclical, we all give. We give to this earth, and I believe that that's why God produced everything for us. Yeah. I truly believe that. And again, watching my animals that we were raising, animals kill animals.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was killing. I think it's giving, because eventually we will give our bodies back to the earth.
Yeah.
And our bodies will give back to the earth. Yeah. And I think it's all part of life. It's all part of what God's plan is.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
absolutely love that. We had Leah Keith on our show a few times, and she made the point about the combines. I hate to even repeat this because it's so miserable to even think about. But as the combines are going through the fields are condensing with animals. All of these animals are running away. So they say the last few acres are the most traumatic for the people that are running these combines, that are seeing all these animals get chewed up at a greater and greater level, which is, again, terrifying to think about. But the point that she made is, like, she always had to think of sentience as a line. Where are you going to draw the line? Are plants alive and sentient? Are insects? Are small rodents? Where do you want to draw the line? As a vegan, it's very difficult to know where to draw the line. And over the course of destroying her own health and learning that she wasn't doing any good for anything, she wasn't doing any good for the animals, she wasn't doing any good for the planet, she learned that the line is actually a circle. And when it's a circle, you recognize that everything is alive. And we are fertilizers for plants. We are going to go back into the earth, and we are here as plant food. And once you think about it that way, it totally shifts your perspective.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Beyond a reasonable doubt. It's, and I know with every ounce of my being now that I've had to go through these steps in life to learn the truth. And I hope that those of us who are still in the vegan world really look hard at what's happening to your body. Have lab work done. The truth will be there. I was so anemic. And plus I have MTHFR and my B12, my riboflavin, and I worked with Chris Masterjohn as well.
Wow.
I've been with the best. And of course,
Who's who?
And then Chris, of course, was my saving grace. He really, because even eating meat, and I was at that point where I was just so falling apart, and now I had been a carnivore almost a year, and I started losing weight again. And my doctor's like, "You can't even survive on meat." He said, "I don't know what to do for you anymore. I don't know." And so I prayed and I prayed, and the Lord brought me Chris. And so I saw his first video, and I contacted him, and I just said to him, I don't know what to eat anymore. I said, "What do you eat?" And so he emailed me back, and one thing led to another. And then, we just became best buds, and he's just taught me so much. So now, again, I'm up to 110, and I'm maintaining it, but I have to eat a lot of food. I have to eat a lot of food, but I feel so, everything's functioning fairly well for me. Everything really is. So it's good.
That's incredible.
Meat is good.
That's great. At the time of this recording, there's a video that's been circulating around. I think Sean Baker shared this. Brian Sanders shared this with a young vegan tasting meat for the first time. And she takes that bite and just looks at it and examines it and is terrified. And she had the same response that you did, where she puts it in her mouth and she just starts bawling. And we've heard the same story from so many former vegans that have appeared on this show, that the lights come on for the first time. What was the cognitive dissonance like? Because every vegan I've ever talked to is vegan for the best reasons. It's not true. None of the reasons are true. You're not saving the planet or the animals or anything, but it's for a noble purpose. to cross that line again must have been so difficult. It's got to be so difficult for anybody who chooses to be vegan. What was it like for you?
It was, and because I love animals so much, I mean, they were my life. I mean, they truly were my family. I mean, they
Exactly.
truly were like my siblings, and I was like part of their litter. And I guess it was just life or death. You get to the point of, I have my daughters, I have my granddaughter, I have my students, and I thought, I'm going to die. And they said, your organs are shutting down, everything. I was dying. And if you could have seen, the top of my arm was like that big.
Wow. So like for the
It was
listener, like literally like your thumb
like
to your pointer
literally
finger. Oh my
even
goodness.
smaller than that, even smaller.
What?
So it wasn't this. You could go this like this.
Oh my goodness.
And it was frightening. And yet I was eating so much food, it didn't make sense. And I didn't want to die. I didn't want to die at the age. And all right, now, Case, here's something that I hope that maybe this will teach the vegans something, or people that are eating a lot of nuts and seeds. I had my first colonoscopy when I was 50, thinking I'm a vegan. It's going to be pristine, you know? So my gastroenterologist comes in after the procedure. And I'm like, how was it? And he said, I don't know. And I said, what does that mean? And he said, I couldn't see a thing. Your entire colon was embedded with nuts and seeds. And I said, how could it be? I said, I'm working on my doctorate. I'm getting my PhD in health and nutrition. They're power foods. He said, whoever told you that humans can digest nuts and seeds? I was shocked. So at that point, that was the kind of beginning of my brain saying there's something not right here. And then let's fast forward 10 years. Then I turned 60 and now I'm carnivore at this point. And I go, I have another colonoscopy. I think, look, on the supposed diet that causes cancer, red meat is a carcinogen. Totally. So I said to my gastroenterologist, now I'm not a vegan anymore. I'm a carnivore. He's like, now you do know that's a carcinogen. I said, let's see. Comes in after the procedure. I said, how was it? He's got the nurses with him. That's the most pristine looking colon I have ever seen.
Wow.
It's not a polyp, nothing. And the nurses are like, what do you eat? And I said, meat. Like, what? You mean our husbands, we can make them meat now? And I think, what kind? And I said, red meat, mostly wild bison. Like, oh my God.
Brains exploded.
So that was kind of a powerful moment to me. Plants versus meat. Which one is so? It was pretty nifty. It's pretty swell.
Is crazy. I love that story. I've heard you tell that story before, and I absolutely love that. That's crazy. We are not designed to ingest so many of those like nuts and seeds. Like we've had Dr. Bill Schindler come on the show and say like, yeah, I ate nuts and seeds when I grew up, and it was during Christmas, and you would have this giant nut that you'd have to crack. So it was a ton of work, and you'd get like a few, maybe. It wasn't worth all the work to even get them. Now I can drive a mile away to Costco and buy a giant bag of almonds and crush them like handful by handful. They never satiate ever. And I can have more and more and more and more. We're not, that's a totally different context.
And it's 365 days a year.
Exactly.
No, we don't do that. We don't do that. We just don't. And even the wild animals don't. They don't. And I know my raccoons and the skunks and the fox and even my chipmunks. I have a little Daisy that lives out here that she's all over me all the time. If she will eat, she doesn't. Most people think, oh, squirrels and chipmunks, they only eat nuts and seeds. They will eat frogs. They will eat snakes. They will eat what they're opportunistic omnivores like we are. You know what I mean? If it's there, you'll do it. But if there's something better, you'll eat that. Yep. And that's what they go for, and we have to understand we don't eat all these things 365 days a year. Right. They're only when they're available, and even for me, for my system, I cannot handle most plants. I cannot. I'm allergic to so many of them. And to me, I'm okay. I love the meat. I love meat and fish. and things like that.
Yeah,
So
that's amazing. To think that I can fly to Montreal, like you mentioned, and eat mangoes in March, like that does not exist. That's not a natural thing. But that's what we're used to, right? Like if I observed what humans are eating right now and what I would assume is a species appropriate diet, I would say like, oh, it's Grubhub and it's shopping in the middle of the grocery store with like Reese's branded cereal and granola bars. Like it's a joke. It's
it's
absolutely
so
crazy.
true. It is so true, and that's why seasonal eating. I'm a seasonal eater, so like right now I haven't had apples in a really long time because now they're in season. So now I'm adding a little bit of apple into my diet.
Cool.
Not a lot, but just a little. And again, my go-to for me is meat, eggs, and fish.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah.
Okay, so now we're kind of getting into the space of like ancestral diets, like what we've eaten as a species appropriate diet, like I said. And so this leads us to your work with Dr. Chris Kenobi. How did the two of you get mixed up together?
Well, again, I contacted him because I was dying. I'm like, oh my golly. And when I watched his first video, it was, I think, the 2019 Denver down, where what's the one? What's
Low
it
carb
called?
Denver?
Yes,
Yeah,
low carb
yeah.
Denver. Oh my golly. I literally, I kept stopping the video and I'm crying because everything he was saying was so profound. And he was showing, the Maasai and the Tukasenta, and in Papua, he's showing three different cultures that are surviving on three different styles. One carnivore, one in the middle of the road, and one almost completely vegan, almost, not completely. But when you look at the Papua New Guinea people, they're mostly 90% is sweet potatoes. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is brilliant. It's brilliant. It's showing that we're all unique and we have to listen to ourselves, and that's why I contacted him. And so, he was intrigued by my knowledge and my experiences. And I think, seeing that I had, raised all my animals and I've been thinking of and studying this my entire life, and to see someone who's been kind of living it, trying to find that perfect spot. So we just became best friends, and we started researching and 24/7, and so that now here we are today.
How was the
Yeah.
process of writing that book? Like editing everything and getting everything in? Like, what was that like?
Oh, Case, it was exhausting. We would work. We had hardly no contact with people. Yes, our children, we would stay in touch with our family members, but we would literally locked in and we were just working nonstop. We would go out just long enough to get groceries every 10 days and come back. And it was months and months and months of that. And, but we're geeks, we're research geeks, and we love what we were doing. And, it was so profound. I learned so much from him. He learned from me. And then, of course, the editing process, that was my baby as well. And I love this part of, I've done it as a teacher and educator. I've been editing for years, but it was a learning experience. It was just, again, it's such a blessing and gift from God. And now I know that everything from the moment I've been born has been to get me to this point. God had a plan, and I had to learn everything so that I can now teach it to the world.
That's amazing.
Tell the truth. We're truth seekers, Case. We aren't about money. We don't make any money. If anything, we're losing money. But as I always say, we're not losing. We're gaining because we're going to save lives.
Yeah.
We're saving lives. And it doesn't get any better than that. I would give every dime I have to save a life. And that's what we're doing.
That's amazing. Wow. Well, when I interviewed Chris after he had sent me the book, I asked him what it was like to actually like receive the book, put it in his hands. It's just it feels amazing. I told him the same thing. Like you could bash somebody's skull with it. It's so thick and dense with information, but the hardcover is amazing. I asked him like, what was it like to hold the book for the first time? And he said, you know what? I haven't even received my copy. I sent them out to everybody else. So he didn't even like hold it in his hands before I did. What was it like to actually like feel the book in your hands?
I couldn't believe it. It was overwhelming. And of course, you can tell I'm emotional. I cry a lot.
Good.
Sorry. But it was just so beautiful. It was such a it's our baby. It's like giving birth, we worked so hard, and it was just miraculous. It's really an amazing experience.
That's
And
amazing.
hopefully there'll be many more,
That's amazing. Okay, so the main, what you just said about the populations is some populations, indigenous tribes in the world eat mostly meat. There's also some that eat more plants than they eat meat. Chris is going around to conferences that are called low carb Denver, whatever. He's making these presentations and making pretty bold claims that this book makes that says maybe it's not the carbohydrates, maybe it's seed oils. Can you explain why you guys kind of went down that path of identifying the main harm in our modern diets might not even be the carbohydrates, it might be seed oils?
With all my heart and soul, I believe that's what it is. When you look at any package in a store, there's always seed oils. But then, of course, it's got sugar, it's got all these other things and toxins in it. So they all kind of come together. And I know that when you look, and I've got slides that we can look through too as well, Case, that it will show you these three that we've been talking about. That we've got the variety of people throughout history that we've studied, and we have gone through thousands and thousands of studies. And there's over 1,300 in our book. We had to pick which ones, because Chris is like, come on, we got to pick which ones we're going to use. There's so many to pick from. And there's so many that are eating carbs. But again, they're natural carbs. We're not talking about processed. Anything that's man-made, I don't go near. I will not go near them. And so when you're looking at carbs and sugars and all these things, there's cultures that are living at all of these, and they're swell. I mean, they're top notch in their health. And then of course you got the people who are against the meat. Oh, that's nothing but saturated fat. You can't do that. It's going to clog your arteries and that. But we're proving across the board, if you eat naturally, you eat from the earth, you can really do really well, because we've got all these tribes and all these people, and they're still living. And that's what we're going to be doing coming up, is we're going to actually now put it into play. We're going to go and we're going to be with them, and we're going to talk with them, and we're going to see if they still are living ancestrally or has processed food that infiltrated into their areas. But I really do believe it's not the carbs. I don't believe it's the sugars. I believe it's these seed oils. They are so toxic. They are just so deadly what they do. Every mitochondrial is being destroyed. I just think we have to really look at this, because so many of my clients, when they come to me, they're so sick. Yeah. And if I just tell them to get rid of anything that has seed oils in it, yep. I've had people call me within 24 hours, Case, after just stopping. And they're like, Suze, I can't believe what's coming out of me. I know this is probably too graphic for you, but I said, no, really, I've heard it all. It's like sludge coming out of me.
24 hours.
Body, yeah, in 24 hours. And I said, I know, wait till 30 days. Keep it out, And it is profound to see the difference when you remove the seed oils and processed food. You will age backwards. You'll start to, all of a sudden, you just become amazing. Yeah. I just feel I would give my life for this. I would bet my life on this. It's amazing. That's
amazing. Yeah. So we're always losing show sponsors on this show. We've already lost Tang today. We've lost Captain Crunch as a potential show sponsor. My favorite cereal as a kid. My parents were way too cheap to buy it for me very often, but I love Captain Crunch. They're not going to sponsor the show anymore. Long since we have lost every canola oil sponsor we could ever hope to acquire. Unfortunately, our most tagged video is from the TV series How It's Made Canola Oil. When you say sludge, you mean sludge. This stuff is disgusting. We're going to tag it again for the listener. Watch it. It's 5 minutes. They're almost like bragging about this amazing product that you wouldn't want in your car. You wouldn't want in a candle. It is disgusting, this process that they go through to make vegetable oils that do not come from vegetables.
Oh, it's so true. It is so, again, as in the book, that's part of my quote is, it's a disease of greed. When you've got the big food guys and the pharmaceuticals, they don't care. They're going to tell you whatever you want to hear as long as they're making their money.
Yep.
And they want to keep us sick.
Yep.
And they're going to keep keeping us sick by all these lab grown. It's getting crazy. I feel like I'm in Twilight Zone. When I was growing up, there was a TV show called Twilight Zone. And I feel like every day it's like glory. And I don't have a TV. I live very, very simply. I don't have anything, I have no microwave. I haven't had those for 20 years. And I don't miss them because I don't want to know what's really going on out there. It's crazy. It's crazy where we're going.
Yeah.
But we all of us in this field, in this network and our communities here, we have to really fight for this, guys. We have to stand up and just say we aren't going to tolerate this anymore. It's going to take all of us together to make a difference.
Yeah, I agree. And these food companies, that's their responsibility, is to make money. It's not even like wrong of them to do this. They don't care. They literally don't care. Like exactly like you said. And we're recording this at such an amazing time chronologically. You are about to embark on such an amazing journey. We connected. We've been, talking back and forth, and you said, I've got this project coming up. I can't tell you much about it. You contacted me earlier in this week and said, like, look, I'm leaving on Friday. Today is Thursday. I said, this week is crazy. I don't have time. I had a cancellation. We made time to do this. And it's the eve of this incredible journey you're going on. Can you share with us, like, what do you have going on?
Oh, Casey, it's just, again, I won't cry, but you can hear my voice. It's just such a gift. It's such a gift that we're going to go. And again, I'm going to add this in. When I was a little girl, my grandmother was miraculous. And again, God placed her in my life for a reason, just like with my dad and everything. She lived in Africa, and she lived with a tribe in Liberia for 2 years and another tribe in Nigeria.
Wow.
She taught there. And when she would come home, I would just sit at her feet and just, Grandma, tell me stories. And she would talk about them. And I would just in awe because she would tell about their food and how they lived in their huts, and they had nothing, but they were so vibrant. I saw her slides that she would come home with. They were just so beautiful, so beautiful. And my whole life, I've always wanted to do the same thing. I wanted to go and live with them and learn from them, because I said that to Grandma, and I said that to my dad. I said, between the animals, the wild animals, and these people who live so naturally, we can learn from them, because we don't know. We don't know how to be humans. We don't know. We're just like these robots that are told by those that be in the health community and all these things that think they know it all, how to live and how to be human. And we don't. We've forgotten. And we're designed to grow, to be outside. We're designed to run. We're designed to climb trees, people. And this is truly, I say this to many of my clients. If you can't pull yourself up onto a tree, because in the old days, that would have been our survival.
That's right.
If we were being chased by predators, we would have had to climb a tree. And so if you can't, then you just ask yourself, am I fit to be human? Am I a fit human? Can you run? Can you sprint fast enough to save your life? And I know people nowadays, oh, Suze, you take to an extreme. No, I don't. I know I'm a little extreme. My thing is, but if we can't run, that's what our legs are for. That's what our feet are for. If we can't pull ourselves up and pull our weight and hold our weight, there's something wrong with that. And so that's always my goal, is to teach people we have to be human. And so now I'll go back to, so now with my grandma, I feel like she's on one shoulder and my dad, he's on my other, because they're both up in. And so we're going to take them tomorrow. I'll be heading out, and Case, do you want me to show the slides?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the listener, just like the episode that we did with Dr. Chris Kenobi, we're going to do a slide share. So I would definitely recommend going to YouTube to find this episode. We'll also link it in the show notes so you can see it. The visual cues are just so amazing to be able to see as well, just like it was with Dr. Chris Kenobi, to show all the different graphs of how seed oils are potentially affecting things a lot more than sugar and carbohydrates. And now we are looking at a slide that says Pacific Islands Research Expedition 2023. That's so exciting.
Oh, Keith, it's so amazing. So these are the islands you can see, right? Oh, Phil says, hold on. All right, so these are the islands, and as we go through, I'll show you closer up of them. But this is where we're heading to. So we're heading to the Pacific Island. islands. And so tomorrow I'll be flying out from Syracuse. I live in Syracuse, near Syracuse, New York, and up near Canada. And so I'm flying to, I'll be flying first to Atlanta and then to LAX. And then from LAX, I have like a 16-hour flight to Melbourne, Australia.
Oh my
That's
goodness.
where Chris is there right now. And so I'll be there on our Saturday, but it'll be Sunday there. So I'll meet up with him. And he's with Dr. Rod Taylor right now. So I'll be with both of them on Sunday.
We just hosted Rod a few weeks ago.
Yeah. So I'm excited to be with them on our Saturday, but their Sunday. And then Chris and I will fly out the next morning. We're going to be heading to, I'll just kind of toggle through things here. This is real quickly what we've just talked. This is my dad, and he's holding two of the cubs, fox cubs that we had. And yeah. And this was me when I first brought home my first little Susie.
Haven't aged a day.
Okay. And so here are our travel plans. All right. So if you look over here, so this is where I'm starting up here in New York, and then I'll fly to Atlanta, and then I'll come over here. And this is where I'm going to in LAX. And then from LAX, I'm going to go all the way down here to Melbourne.
Wow.
And that's where I'll meet Chris. And then from there, we're going to fly from Melbourne. Now, a lot of our trip is just flying, because to get to these small regions we're going to, there's not a lot of flights that go there.
Yeah, sure.
So we have to take unbelievable flights. So then from Melbourne, we're going to fly over here to Bali. And then from Bali, we fly to Makassar, over here, right here in Indonesia. And then from there, we fly to over here. It's called Jayapura. And that's in Papua New Guinea. It's really like over here. You can see it's not really quite. It's still in Papua New Guinea, but they call it Papua, I guess. That's how you pronounce it. And then from there, so this is more of a city, kind of a region, kind of, if you call it a city. But again, everyone who's watching, we will be trying, if we've got cell service, we will be I'll try to do some live Instagrams. I'll try to have videos and pictures wherever we are, so you can kind of follow along on our trip and learn as we go. But we're gathering and collecting data. So then from Jaipura, we're going to take a small little plane up into the highlands, and we're going to go up to Wamena. And that is right here where this little guy is right here.
Wow.
And that's where the Dani tribe, or the Denai, I'm not sure, we'll learn how to correctly pronounce it when we're there. That's where they live. And we're going to spend about 4 days with them. And I'm so excited. Okay, it's all the questions and all the things I wanted to ask, and I was asking my grandma. And we're going to go, and we've got a guide that's going to take us, and they're going to teach us so many things, and they're going to teach you all the same things. And I don't want to tell you what they're going to teach us, but these are special requests that I've asked that hopefully that they will come through for us. And it's just so exciting, Case. And then from there, fiddlesticks, hold on. And then from there, we fly back to Jaipura. And then from Jaipura, we will fly back to Bali over here. Then I believe, because there's so much flying, we fly back to Brisbane over here in Australia to try to get to where we're going. Now, a lot of these flights are 10, 15, 12 hours, and then we've got 5 or 6 hour layovers. So it's just to try to get to places. It's unbelievable, but it's worth it.
Well, this picture shows the scale. Like, you can see America, and I know how long it takes to fly from where I live in Salt Lake to Atlanta. It's like 3-4 hours. Yes. It's like nothing compared to the South Pacific. You're flying a ton down there. You're going to have so many frequent flyer miles.
So it is amazing. But we're on all different airlines I've never heard of before.
Oh, of course.
But a lot of them are little tiny things, just little hoppers to get us from one place to another, because some of these islands are so tiny that they even have a strip of land to land on. Is amazing. And so then, of course, we're going to be going to the Solomon Islands, to Honiara first. Well, after Papua New Guinea, that region, which of course we'll talk about a little bit. I'll show you some more slides for them later on. Then we're going to go to Honiara. And I believe that one's right here. I actually have these labels. In Honiara, that's the Solomon Islands. Now, Honiara is like the city region of that. And so we'll be spending time there. Now, what we're going to do, Case, is because people are thinking, well, what are you going to research? This, we're not going to be doing lab work like we will be doing in the future coming up. We're getting our feet wet. We're trying to figure out how to do all of this and what we have to do to orchestrate the massive study that's going to be coming up. And this all costs so much money, Case. This is costing us a fortune. And we are so grateful for the people who have donated money to help us afford this trip.
Wow.
And so, but we're still putting our own money in because it's so expensive. And we just want this to come to fruition. We want it to come to truth. And so what we're going to do is we're not taking blood work. We're not taking adipose tissue. We're not doing, sampling where we're doing double food plates and freeze dry them and send them off to our labs. That's coming up. But this one, what we're going to do is we're going to meet with the tribes, and we're hoping to see that they're still pristine in their health. And we're hoping to see that that seed oils and processed food have not infiltrated them yet. In my studies for this, no, I'm kind of a little leery. There may be some that's getting there. But we're going to meet with the tribes, and then we're also going to go into their kind of cities. They're not really cities, but what they would call cities, where they do have stores and they do have access to what we'll see. I'm not sure. Some saying, oh no, it's just still coconut oil. It's still coconut oil. Seed oils have not gone there. We will know. We will know. So that's what we're going to go. So we're going to go to, and we're going to speak with the native tribes, and then we're going to also speak with their cohorts who are now living not as ancestrally. And so we want to see what's going on. And that's what we're going to be compiling the data this time. We're going to go into the restaurants and ask what they cook with. We're going to look at their food, going into the stores, see if they've got all the bottles of seed oils and do they have all the processed foods with the packaging. And we're going to talk with the people and find out how are they doing. And Chris is very much the same way. When I'm with the native tribes, I will be asking if I can, look in their mouths. I was studying dentistry at one point. I wanted to be a dentist. And so I would love to see what's happening in their mouth, because I think our mouth it's the beginning of our digestive system. And that's how your mouth looks and how your teeth look really does tell how your health is. Yep. And so I'm hoping you would let me see how I want to see the width in their mandible and everything that we know. If you're eating ancestrally, it's going to be, you're going to have a wider jaw. You're going to have room for all of your teeth. You're not going to have your wisdom teeth move. So these are the things we're going to be doing, and keeping a lot of records of what we're seeing, a lot of photos, and then to prepare us for when we start to travel to like Tanzania, so we can go and spend time with Maasai and the Hadza, and we can go to Costa Rica, all the places that we've talked about, the Inuit, all of these people we can go and stay with and learn from them. But we've got to educate the world too, that a lot of travelers think that they're really doing something swell by bringing, I'm going to bring them some lollipops. I'm going to bring them some candy. I'm going to bring them some cigarettes. Whatever. They'll really appreciate this. Please, please. If you visit these regions and you meet these people, please don't offer them these things.
Might as well introduce cocaine. Might as well just bring like some addictive, crazy drug.
Yes. If anything, bring them other things, bring them maybe some clothing, something beautiful, something organically made, don't bring polyester, think just even money. They may need money, because possibly many of them maybe have relatives that they could give money to, or more food from the earth, more food from the earth. But we've got to educate the world. We've got to leave these people alone. Yeah. We all need to become more like them. Yep. And so then after Honiara, then I've got to think. Then we fly to Samoa. We'll go to Samoa. That's way over here. And that's going to take us quite a while to get to Samoa. I think we fly to Fiji this time. So we'll go to Fiji, and that Fiji's right here. I believe Fiji's over here. And then from Fiji, we fly over back to Brisbane, back to Australia. And then from Australia, then we'll fly back to Samoa. We'll finally get to Samoa, and we'll spend about 4 or 5 days there doing the same thing. And then from Samoa, we're going to go, we will fly back again to Brisbane. And then, of course, then we'll fly over to Vanuatu. And Vanuatu is right here, I believe. Could be there. It was one of these islands here, which I'll get it down eventually. And in Vanuatu, we read about this in the book. Another wonderful region where they live so ancestrally, so healthy, very much like Papua New Guinea. And we'll be looking at the cohorts there. And then we're going to fly to Tana. And there's a movie out called Tana. And it's about this tribe that lives there. And they're extremely ancestral. And I'm praying that they're still living ancestrally. And so we'll take a little tiny plane that will hop us over there. It's only an hour flight. So that was really
good.
Really nifty. That's a short one. And we'll spend some time there in meeting the native tribes there. And then we fly back to Vanuatu. And then we're going to fly to Fiji. And in Fiji, we're going to spend a time there. They actually have a couple villages there that are 2 million years old, and they're still living ancestrally. And so again, we're going to meet with them and their cohorts, and it's all comparing and contrasting and hoping and just praying that they're still ancestrally living. They don't have any infiltration of seed oils, processed food, because the obesity and what I'm seeing in my studies and research is huge. It is enormous in these regions. And there's a theory in science that's called the thrifty gene, that some say that some of these cultures, that they can't handle processed food, and so they instantly it will become an instant.
Yeah. My
theory is it's because it's hit them so quickly. They aren't like how we are, that when we've had gradual, our ancestors, our great grandparents were slowly introduced with Crisco in the early 1900s. And they were pristine, which I'll show you in the slide. They were just pristine. And then it was slowly introduced. So they had years to get used to this new processed food. And then it got worse, and it got worse, and it got worse. But when you just throw it in to these communities, all of a sudden they're inundated. Their bodies are inundated with so quickly. I don't know if it's a thrifty gene. I think it's just too much at one time.
Yeah.
And the body can't handle it. It's like a toxic overdose, And I think that's my take as a researcher, that possibly that might be what's going on, but we'll see. We'll see what's happening there when we get there. And that's what our job is. We're truth seekers. So now we'll go to, these are the places around the world that we know some of the most incredibly healthy people live. And again, without coronary heart disease, none. Before processed food came in, there was none. What does it say?
Yeah.
What does it say?
Yeah.
And then these are the Maasai.
Yep. I remember that picture from the book. I know. They look so healthy.
Look how pristine they are. And again, this is in Tanzania, in Africa. And this is what my grandmother lived with for years. And when she talked about them, she just lit up. She goes, "This is where I would love to live the rest of my life."
Clearly, they've been using like Crest whitening toothpaste. Their teeth are like fluorescent white. So clearly,
oh my golly, look at their teeth! But look what they eat. Case, look what they eat. 3,000 calories a day. 66% is animal fat. Animal fat.
So lean. 40%
saturated. Notice the saturated fat, guys. Look at the saturated fat that they were consuming. And we're told by the health community, saturated fat kills.
Yep.
No, it doesn't. Look at them. Carbs. They had 17% carbs. Percent. And look at their LA, only 1.7%. I mean, many of us in people who are eating processed food, 20%.
Yeah, linoleic acid. It's so prevalent in our diets.
It's insane. So again, it is remarkable. It is remarkable. And now the toke allowance, they're going to be in the region where we're going to be, and you can see this is where we're going to be. And they're, again, look at their diet: coconut, fish, starchy tubers, and fruit.
Dude is jacked.
Yeah. And 54 to 62% of their calories are from coconut oil.
Saturated fat.
Right? saturated fat. 91 to 94, almost 95% saturated fat. And 53% of their diet is fat, but 48% is saturated fat of that fat. 2% of their diet is PUFA. 2%, only 2%. I mean, it's remarkable, just remarkable.
Wow.
So these are just things I'm kind of talking to because I feel like I've kind of kept you for so long. Now we go to the Tukasinta. This is where we're going to be spending our time, in Papua New Guinea, in that region. Look at these people, look at the potatoes, and we're going to be seeing where they grow all of these. We're going to be helping them to harvest them. We're going to be working right with them.
That's amazing.
So overwhelming. Wow. I'm just so honored. But again, they do have some meat. Notice we have not found one group of vegans. We have never found a group of vegans.
That's right.
That survived. They all have some kind of animal product. Because you have to. We need the B12. We have to. We have to.
Yep. It's
and
not
so
possible.
look at that. No. And so they had some pork and chicken. It wasn't all the time, but they did. But we'll know when we're there. We'll tell you more how much that they're eating each week or each month. Okay. But look at this. Again, their diet, 94.6% were carbs.
Yep.
3% protein, 2.4% fat.
Yep.
Only 0.6 LA. Low as it goes here. I mean, that's remarkable.
Yeah.
Lean, fit, absence of obesity. They found no diabetes, no gout. Ischemic heart disease, very rare. And my mother is blind from macular degeneration.
Yeah, that's right.
No macular degeneration, none.
Amazing. Wow.
So, and again, they were living a lot on sweet potatoes. For me, I can't hardly do potatoes because the oxalates cause such havoc in my body.
I was going to ask. Like, what are you thinking as far as like, again, some of this data is taken from the past, but like, if you're going to be there and live there and they still eat this way, assuming they still eat that way, like, are you worried about like an oxalate bomb with the sweet potatoes?
For me, and that's what we were talking last night on the phone. He's like, Suze, because I get very sick when we travel. If there's the least little contaminant that is something I'm allergic to, I get very sick. But he's used to it, and I deal with it because we have to. We're researchers. We have to put our bodies through what we have to put through.
Amazing.
But the thing, this is something very interesting because everyone's, well, how can they eat so many sweet potatoes? You guys with your oxalates, these people eat a ton of sweet potatoes. This is our theory, and Chris and I talk about this a lot. There are certain bacterias, and I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong. I think it's oxalobifactor. I'm probably produced, but it is an actual microbe that lives in many people's gut. Doesn't live in mine. I've been tested. I do not have an ounce of this in my body. Chris has a massive amount in his. And I believe that those people who have this are able to consume oxalates because it's like the little Pac-Man guy.
Yeah, fascinating.
He helps to eat it up and helps to get it out of our bodies. And those of us, I think, that don't have it are the ones who are struggling. Now, we do have a couple other of the bacteria that do, probiotics that do eat and help to get rid of the oxalates. But I think that the oxalobifactor, I think that's what it's called, is the key one. And I have none in my body. Yeah. And I wish I did. But you know what I'm wondering, and I've been tested on this, glyphosate. I'm so pristine in my life. I don't use any chemicals in my home. I don't use any chemicals in my yard. For decades, I've only eaten whole food, natural food, organic. I don't eat anything that's not organic. But yet I had my blood tested. I had my levels tested, and they were very high in glyphosate.
Yeah.
And so if I'm high, what is everybody else who just is not? And so is that glyphosate destroying our gut microbiome? And is that causing so many of us to struggle with what we can digest, what we can handle anymore? Yeah. And so again, this is all part of our research case that we're trying to figure a lot of this out. But so I'm going to be eating their sweet potatoes, but they prepare them totally different. I can't wait to show you what they're going to show us, how they prepare them. It's really unique.
Wow.
Yeah. So again, but again, but what do all healthy populations, traditional ancestrally, what do they have in common? No refined sugar, no refined wheat, no processed foods, and what? No vegetable oils.
Yep.
And many of them are using the coconut oil. Coconut oil is really, I do believe it's got some amazing power in it. I really, really do.
Great.
I've seen people who've used it, and it has changed their life, especially when it comes to their brain. So again, dietary analysis, traditional population studies. What about the fat composition? Look at the Tucasenta, 1%. Maasai, 45. Tokelauan, 48. There's a variety across the board. Okay. Monosaturated doesn't matter. 1% in Tucasenta, 65% Maasai. Wow. So it's really, it's amazing. Okay. Macronutrients. Carbs, do carbs matter? 70% Maasai, 95% in Tucasenta. Do fats matter? 2.4% in Tucasenta, 66 in Maasai. And they were all pristine. So again, we have to be the truth. We have to tell the truth. Everyone has to listen to their bodies. What's best for you? For me, I tried massive carbs and I almost died. I know some people that can do a lot of carbs and they really thrive. Yep. So for my body, I do really, really well with meat. Yep. So again, look at this. Look at these, the carbs versus look at the Eskimos, 8%. Maasai 17, Tokelauans 24, Japan 84, Okinawans 84, Tucasenta 94. And all their health, excellent. Yep. Again, total fat, Maasai 66, Tokelauans 53, Inuit 47, Japan 5, Okinawa less than 5, around 5, Tucasenta 3. And again, their health, excellent. We can't say you're wrong. This is the facts. This is what we have. And look at this. The LA. What do we know? Look at the levels here, Case. Look how low they are.
Yeah. Again, for the listener, if you're not watching this, it's so fascinating to actually see the slides. Pull this up on YouTube. Look at the link because you're seeing the linoleic acid, the most harmful part of vegetable oil, and how low it is in some of these diets that are more traditional and living, like as you said, Susan, like excellent health.
It's remarkable. And that's what it is. This is what we've honed in on. This is when you take like a microscope, let's zoom right in. What is it that they all have in common? It's not the carbs. It's not the fat, because we're showing you it's all different. They're all over the place. Yep. But the one thing that they have in common is their LA level. It is so low. And we've found that once you get up to around 4, that's when things start falling apart. Yep. And 4 sounds pretty low, but it's at that point that we see. So try to keep it below if possible. And it's so possible when you eat ancestrally. It's so possible.
Yep, that's right.
Again, these are the oils that we say, stay away from. And you'll see the red, and then there's the yellow, and then there's the green. And of course, on this, they don't have macadamia. And I said that first. I said, well, I wish there was a way we could put macadamia, but it wouldn't fit. Macadamia is about 2% as well. If you have to use a seed or a nut oil, macadamia is 2. But again, I have so many people writing to me, and so many of my clients ask me, but what oil would you use? Well, I don't use oil. If I had to, I would use a coconut oil. But if I was going to use, because again, they don't have the fat soluble vitamins A, D, K2. Those are crucial in our diet. And these oils don't have any of them, none of them. So any of these new fancy oils that are coming out on the market, everyone's trying to say, oh, this one's, this is the one that it doesn't have, doesn't have the oxalates on it. It doesn't have the LA, it doesn't have all these things. It's very low. The one point is, though, it doesn't have the fat soluble vitamins, and we need those. We need those things. So I would just say, go with the animal fat, beef, butter, tallow, lard. I use suet. Suet is the raw kidney fat before it's been processed and made into tallow. I just love raw suet.
Yep.
To me, it tastes like cheese. Then these are the nuts and seeds I would stay away from. Personally, I don't eat any nuts and seeds because I saw my colon. It wasn't attractive. So if you haven't seen your colon and what nuts and seeds might do to them, just be aware. Just be aware. Just eat just a few if you must.
Yeah.
Just a few.
So I record podcasts on my phone, not on my computer. Can you read some of the red oils that you showed on the screen? Yeah, for the listener.
Oh, the oils. Okay, let's see the oils. The top one, safflower. Golly, look at that, 75% LA. Safflower, grapeseed, 70% LA. Sunflower, 68%. Corn, 58%. Cottonseed, 55. Soybean, 53. Rice bran, 35. Peanut, 32. Canola, 21. Then we get down to lard. Again, if this is CAFO raised, if it's raised without its ancestral diet, the LA will be huge and I wouldn't touch it.
Right.
Linseed, flaxseed is 16%. Avocado, daisori, 14%. And that's if it's pure. If it's been adulterated, glory be. Olive oil, if it hasn't been adulterated, it would be 10, but it could be low. It could be low as 3. But Case, we're working on a project right now, which I think it could be really swell because I think olive oil, it's got such amazing. I do believe it because of the vitamin E that it has is so powerful, and it's got so many, so many things. I think that I don't even think that science can find like we can in food. It's been used forever. And I think if we can find one that is so pristine and that is at 3% and let the world know about it. So we're working on that.
That's amazing. Wow. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing all these powerful slides. It's so awesome to see. I just, before we let you go, you're truly like a modern day Dr. Weston A. Price, like going to observe these places, and you're approaching science. There he is. Yeah. You're approaching science in the way that you are supposed to, where you make an observation, you go travel around and kind of check things out before you can make any kind of conclusions. And you made a few hypotheses before you leave, but I'm wondering, as like the final question, like what kind of hypothesis do you think you have before you go to these places? Like, are these going to be populations that are untouched by our food, or is it too late? Have we already infiltrated these populations? What do you think you're going to see when you're going around on some of these trips?
My research for this trip has been kind of, I'm like, oh, golly. So when I report to Chris, I'm like, I'm not feeling very happy about what I might see. And so I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping that I'm not, that I'm going to be pleasantly surprised that many of the people there are still living ancestrally, and that we haven't infiltrated there with our food. But so I'm fearful that we will find processed food is destroying them as it is us as well. But on a positive note, I have faith, like we're doing now around the world, that with you and everyone, we're all hand in hand through this. We're marching through. We're warriors, and we can stop this. We can prevent all of this. We can eradicate all of these oils eventually, and we can get them off the shelves. We can get all this toxic food out of our world, and we can go back. But it's a choice, guys. It's a choice. We all have a choice, and we can live. Look at these warriors.
Amazing.
These are the warriors. These are recent pictures. So this is who. Look at them.
They can climb trees. I can tell you that. They can sprint and they can climb trees.
They can, guys. And ask yourselves: are you a warrior? They live ancestrally. We need to get back to our roots. We need to get back to being human, and we need to get back to living like they do. And we can. And so if I get there, and I find that in talking with them, that their health is starting to fail, I'm hoping that we can educate them to stop. Don't do this, and we'll show them pictures of what's happening in our world that we don't want them to see, that we don't want them to become. So it's all education. We have to teach. We're teachers. And I think we can do this, guys. We can do this. And in case, I just can't thank you for giving us the voice and the platform to share our word with and our research. But we all have to share.
It's a,
Spread the word.
it's the
Spread the
least
word.
I could do to host you guys. This is such an amazing thing. I'm so inspired by all of this. This is very unique as well because we're going to be able to talk to you here in a few weeks after you get back, and we're going to learn everything that you learned. You're going to be able to report back on our show. I cannot wait to hear what you've learned. I definitely need to get the contact information for your travel agent who set this all up. Pretty.
It was me.
You're the travel agent? Okay, great.
I did everything. I did it all.
Great. Next vacation I go on, I'm going to call you and you're going to set everything up for me. That's going to be awesome.
Thanks, Case. But that was really hard because finding ways to get to these places, but it was really neat. But Case, this is our book. Just want to let everyone know it's in 4 different versions. But I'm just going to say, guys, honestly, don't waste your money on the black and white because there's 180 beautiful graphs and pictures and charts that it doesn't do it justice. You can't see it clearly enough. If you really want to save money, go to the ebook. Oh my golly, I spent so long creating. This is like a once in a lifetime to have an ebook that has so many linkable from the text to whatever it is what we're writing about. You can click right onto it. It'll take you right to that item. And it's very rare because usually a book of this size couldn't be done. You can't link. It would be just a very few things, but I found a way to do it. It's truly magnificent. And that's all color. That is all color. The hardcover, all color. It's the paperback. So just be aware of that, darlings. It really does matter. And again, this is our seed oil free is the key to being disease free. It's our motto. And Case, I can't thank you enough for this opportunity to share our journey and our research. And
well, I can't thank you enough for putting this together day before your amazing trip. You're somebody I've really respected and followed for a long time. And Dr. Chris Kenobi is just the kindest human ever. And he's amazing that the two of you are going on this trip. And this journey is just so wonderful. I can't thank you enough for being on our show today. Hosting you was a very small token, very, very small token of gratitude for what you guys are doing. Will you, if you don't mind, will you tell the listeners where they can go to find you, to connect with you and your work, and where they can potentially follow along on this journey?
Thank you. In case, if at all possible, maybe while we're talking as I'm away, if you want to do some quick, I don't know if we can ever do a live together.
Oh, that would be unreal.
That'd be nifty.
Let's do it.
So we'll figure out a way. We'll just be talking. But anyway, guys, you can find us and follow us if you want on our journey, as well as everything that we're doing on either Instagram, Facebook, Twitter or X now, either Ancestral Health Foundation, CureAMD, or at my page on Suzanne Alexander. So I will be posting on both of those, on all of those different social medias as well. And if you want to donate, guys, to help us to fund our next ventures, our next expeditions, please, every dollar we believe would save 10 lives.
Wow. And
we don't get paid for anything. We give our own money to the foundation, and we're here to save lives, and that's our mission. We're not here to be millionaires. Being a millionaire to me is knowing I saved someone's life.
That's amazing.
That's the greatest gift. So if you want to just go to CureAMD, we will eventually have our Ancestral Health Foundation coming up, but we've been so busy doing everything else, we haven't gotten that put together yet. But CureAMD Foundation, CureAMD.org, you can go there. We have a donation page, darlings, and we would just so appreciate any dime that anyone could possibly give us. And again, we thank those who've already donated. So that's what we can.
Definitely. I'll be donating to that website, and I encourage the listeners to do the same. Do you have a link for your travel agency, new business website? My wife and I would love to go to like Cancun in January.
So adorable.
If you could book the hotel and the flight, that'd be great.
Let me know, guys. I'm always there. I'll give anyone a helping hand.
That's amazing. Suze, thank you so very much for appearing on our show today. We really appreciate you.
Casey, thank you, darling. I just adore you. Thank you. You're just an angel. Thank you.
So are you. I am so excited to connect with you again, to see what you've learned. It's been amazing to hear about what you think might happen and all the work you put into the book, which is absolutely beautiful. I didn't even know there was a black and white version. Everybody should buy the color version or buy the ebook. It is worth every penny for sure. There's so much information. There's so many beautiful illustrations and graphs and photographs. So again, thank you so very much, Suze. Yep, it's a beautiful book. I love it. But again, thank you so very much for appearing on our show today. We really appreciate it.
I'll talk to you soon, honey.
I will talk to you soon. That sounds great. And this has been another episode of Boundless Body Radio. As always, thank you so very much for listening to Boundless Body Radio. I know I say this all the time, but I really do mean it. It has been such a joy to make and produce this podcast and to watch it grow. Our business started in the pandemic in July of 2020, and we started the podcast in October of 2020. So it has been 3 years now, and to see that we have generated over 400,000 downloads worldwide is just simply unbelievable to me. This year in particular has been such a blast to travel to different health conferences and not only meet some of our amazing guests, but also to meet many of you, our listeners and supporters. We really just can't thank you enough. As always, feel free to book a complimentary 30-minute session on our website, which is myboundlessbody.com. On our homepage, there is a Book Now button where you can find a time to speak with us about health, fitness, nutrition, whatever you like. We've loved chatting with people all over the world and many of you out there to bounce ideas off each other or to try to come up with plans to achieve specific goals, or even if it's just to reach out to introduce yourselves, we would just love to meet you and connect with you there. Also, be sure to check out our YouTube channel if you'd like to watch these full interviews, and also the shorter interviews on more specific topics that are taken from these full interviews. We've gotten really good feedback over there. It's also a really fun way to interact with people who comment. We read and reply to every single YouTube comment we get. So head on over there if you want to start a conversation and watch these videos. As always, if you haven't already, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple. It really is the best way to make sure this podcast gets out there to more listeners. We've been able to keep Boundless Body Radio ad-free for 3 years and really want to continue to do so. And so your 5-star ratings and reviews are the best way to support us at Boundless Body and support the podcast. Cheers. Thank you again so very much for listening to Boundless Body Radio.